Hello, I hope you're having a good day. Today we are doing lesson 6 from Unit 5, Taking a Stand, and we are working from page 15. If you're ready, let's get started. As you can see on page 15, we have 3 documents. We have an article from a newspaper, we have some information about the Vietnam War, and we have a newspaper clipping from the Houston Post. Let's have a look at these documents. First of all, some information about the Vietnam War from 1954 to 1975. The United States joined forces with the Republic of South Vietnam to contest communist forces comprised of South Vietnamese guerrilla fighters, Viet Cong, and the North Vietnamese Army. The United States of America drafted more than 2 million young Americans and directed the war from 1965 to 1968. It ended with communist victory in April 1975. It became known as the only war America ever lost. The Vietnam War was extremely traumatic for the American people for a number of reasons. First of all, it was televised, so you had reporters with cameras during that war, so people in America could see the horrors of the war happening right on television. And also a lot of young American men were sent to fight in very difficult conditions. And some of them came back and they were traumatized. So why are we talking about the Vietnam War? Well, let's have a look at this newspaper clipping. It's from the Houston Post, and the date is very difficult to see, but it is 1967. It says Clay, you remember Cassius Clay was Muhammad Ali's former name. Clay gets 5 years, $10,000 fine. So Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, was condemned, was sentenced to 5 years of prison and $10,000 in fine, which is a lot. So what is the link between the Vietnam War and Muhammad Ali? Well, let's have a look at the article. Recalling Muhammad Ali's Vietnam War resistance in the age of Trump. It is from David Remnick, The New Yorker, September 24th, 2017. So this was written very recently. I suggest you take a highlighter, listen to the text, read the text, and highlight the words that are difficult and the words that are interesting in your opinion. So, recalling Muhammad Ali's Vietnam War resistance in the age of Trump. When Cassius Clay changed his name to Muhammad Ali, and when he later refused the call of the military during the war in Vietnam, he was not universally cheered. Hardly. Ali was not prepared to give his life or kill Vietnamese on behalf of a society that barely valued his life or that of his fellow black men and women. Or, as he put it, why should they ask me to put on a uniform and go 10,000 miles from home and drop bombs and bullets on brown people in Vietnam when so-called Negro people in Louisville are treated like dogs? If I thought the war was going to bring freedom and equality to 22 million of my people, they wouldn't have to draft me. I'd join tomorrow. I have nothing to lose by standing up for my beliefs. We've been in jail for 400 years. On April 28, 1967, at the US Armed Forces examining an entrance station in Houston, Ali, standing beside 25 other nerve-wracked young men called to the draft, refused to respond to the call of Cassius Clay. He said no, and was sentenced to 5 years in prison and released on bail. Boxing authorities quickly stripped him of his championship title and suspended his license to box in New York State. He was 25 years old, deprived of his livelihood. Now, there are a lot of words in this text that you will probably have to look up in a dictionary, but there is one that I really want to focus on. It is the word to draft. You can find it right here and right there. To draft is when the US Army or any army asks for volunteers, but they don't have enough. The number of volunteers is not big enough. So they decide to force people to join the army. They call your name. They say, you become a soldier. You become a soldier. And they sometimes encounter resistance, like in this case. Now, I strongly suggest you look up the words you don't understand, and then we're going to page 16, and we're going to fill the column for Muhammad Ali, so that's sports activist number 2. Let's see. So who and when? Well, who is Muhammad Ali? Formerly known as Cassius Clay. And he refused to join the US Army on April 28, 1967. Donc, Mohamed Ali, anciennement connu sous le nom de Cassius Clay, a refusé de rentrer dans l'armée américaine le 28 avril 1967. What was the context? Well, the context was the war in Vietnam. The US Army was fighting in Vietnam. They were allied with the South, but they were losing the war. 2 million American soldiers fought in Vietnam. Donc l'armée américaine se battait au Vietnam, ils étaient alliés avec le Sud, mais ils étaient en train de perdre la guerre. 2 millions de soldats américains se sont battus au Vietnam. Attention, en anglais, million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, on ne met pas de S quand il y a un chiffre devant million, quand c'est un nombre précis. What did he do? Well, he refused. Ali refused to join, even though he was drafted, even though he was forced, and he refused to respond to his former name. Donc, Mohamed Ali a refusé de rentrer dans l'armée, même s'il avait été sélectionné, et a refusé de répondre à son ancien nom. Il a refusé de reconnaître son ancien nom. Why? Because he felt that it was unfair to ask a black man who was being treated badly in the US and who was a victim of racial inequality to go fight and kill members of another minority in another country and maybe die for a country that didn't respect its own principles. Il trouvait qu'il était injuste de demander à un homme noir qui était maltraité aux États-Unis et qui était une victime de l'inégalité raciale, donc du racisme, donc de demander à un homme noir d'aller se battre et tuer des membres d'une autre minorité dans un autre pays et peut-être même de mourir pour un pays qui ne respecte pas ses propres principes. Puisque dans les principes américains, il y a l'égalité. So what were the negative consequences for Muhammad Ali? He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. He received a hefty fine, $10,000, and he lost his boxing career. He was stripped of his title and of his license. Donc, il a été condamné à 5 ans de prison, alors avec sursis, c'est-à-dire qu'il a été libéré sous caution. Il n'a pas forcément été vraiment en prison, mais il a écopé de 5 ans quand même. Et il a reçu une amende salée. Vous savez, une amende salée, c'est une amende très, très chère. Donc, hefty, ce serait quelque chose de très cher. Donc, il a reçu une amende salée et a perdu sa carrière de boxeur. C'est-à-dire qu'on lui a arraché son titre de champion et sa licence qui lui permettait de faire de la boxe dans l'État de New York. So what were the positive consequences? Because the negative consequences are really bad. What were the positive consequences? Well, he became an emblematic figure of the equal rights movement. and he was an inspiration to many Black Americans. He took a stand for what he believed in, even though it put his career in jeopardy. Even though it put his career in jeopardy. Donc, il est par la suite devenu une figure emblématique du mouvement pour les droits civiques, c'est-à-dire pour l'égalité en droit entre personnes noires et personnes blanches, et a été une source d'inspiration pour beaucoup de Noirs américains. Il a pris position, donc il a pris position pour ce en quoi il croyait, même si ça a mis en danger sa carrière. Now, let's wrap this up and write a recap on Muhammad Ali on page 17. Cassius Clay began his rise to fame as a boxer. He won an Olympic gold medal and later became the heavyweight champion. He then changed his name to Muhammad Ali, which the press didn't like. But his fame, some might say notoriety, grew even more when he refused to be drafted into the US Army for the Vietnam War. He refused to fight and kill for a nation which treated him and people who looked like him unfairly. Cassius Clay a commencé à atteindre la célébrité en tant que boxeur. Il a gagné une médaille d'or olympique et par la suite est devenu champion dans la catégorie poids lourd. Il a ensuite changé son nom pour Muhammad Ali, ce que la presse n'a pas aimé. Mais sa célébrité, et certains diraient même notoriety. Notoriety en anglais, c'est pas la notoriété parce qu'en français, notoriété, ça peut être positif. Notoriety en anglais, c'est le fait d'être célèbre, mais pas pour les bonnes choses. C'est pas pour des choses qui sont bien. Donc, mais sa célébrité a grandi encore plus lorsqu'il a refusé de rejoindre l'armée américaine pour la guerre du Vietnam. Il a refusé de se battre et de tuer pour une nation qui le traitait, lui et les personnes qui lui ressemblaient, de manière injustement. Indeed, Black people were heavily discriminated against. For instance, restaurants could refuse service to people of color, buses were segregated, as were schools. Equality was technically a founding principle of the USA, but it clearly wasn't applied. En effet, les personnes noires étaient victimes d'une très forte discrimination. Par exemple, les restaurants pouvaient refuser de servir des personnes de couleur. Les bus étaient ségrégés, c'est-à-dire qu'il y avait souvent une partie des bus réservée aux blancs, la meilleure partie, et une partie des bus réservée aux noirs. Donc les bus étaient ségrégés, de même que les écoles, c'est-à-dire qu'il y avait des écoles qui étaient pour les blancs et des écoles qui étaient pour les noirs. L'égalité était techniquement un principe fondateur des États-Unis, mais n'était clairement pas appliqué. Muhammad Ali explained that he could not join the army of such a hypocritical country, especially to kill people from another minority. He was severely punished for standing up to the army. He was sentenced to 5 years in jail, although he was released on bail, and had to pay a fine of $10,000, which is a lot of money. He also lost his championship title and had to abandon his career, as he was no longer allowed to box. Muhammad Ali a expliqué qu'il ne pouvait pas entrer dans l'armée d'un pays aussi hypocrite, surtout pour tuer des gens d'une autre minorité. Il a été sévèrement puni pour s'être confronté à l'armée. Il a écopé de 5 ans en prison, bien qu'il ait été relâché sous caution, et a dû payer une amende de $10,000. Alors, ce n'est pas $10,000 de maintenant, ça vaut beaucoup plus. Il a également perdu son titre de champion et a dû abandonner sa carrière car il n'avait plus le droit de boxer. He put his career and livelihood in jeopardy for what he believed in. He paid a very hefty price for his actions, but he also became an inspiration to millions. Il a mis sa carrière et son gagne-pain en danger pour ce en quoi il croyait. Il a payé un prix très salé, un prix très élevé pour ses actions, mais il est aussi devenu une source d'inspiration pour des millions. Vous vous rappelez tout à l'heure, on a dit que devant avec 2 million, 3 million, on ne mettait jamais de S. Par contre, là, il y en a un parce que c'est des millions en étant vague sur la quantité exacte. Quand c'est des millions, on dira millions. Si c'est un nombre précis de millions, 2, 3, 4, 5 millions, on ne mettra pas de S. Finally, let's do a little bit of grammar. It's going to be quite short. On veut exprimer un contraste et on l'a fait beaucoup dans cette séquence. Pour exprimer un contraste, on a plusieurs manières de le dire, que ce soit en anglais ou en français. On a par exemple even though. We celebrate the greatest of our heroes, even though he was despised by so many Americans. Nous célébrons le plus grand de nos héros, même si, bien que, il soit ou il ait été méprisé par tant d'Américains. Even though, ou alors although ou though, se traduirait par même si ou bien que. Et derrière, il nous faut une structure verbale, un groupe verbal. Et là, on le voit, c'est he was despised. Il a été méprisé. On peut aussi utiliser despite ou son équivalent in spite of. Despite being one of the NFL's best players, Kaepernick has been out of work since March 2017. In spite of being one of the NFL's best players, etc. Despite se traduirait par malgré le fait que. Malgré le fait qu'il soit l'un des meilleurs joueurs de la NFL, il n'a pas travaillé depuis mars 2017. On peut aussi utiliser whereas. Amnesty International honored Kaepernick for his gesture, whereas Donald Trump viewed it as unpatriotic. On peut également utiliser while, qu'on utilisera dans la phrase suivante. Why should they ask me to put on a uniform while so-called Negro people in Louisville are treated like dogs? Whereas et while sont des équivalents, on peut les utiliser de façon complètement interchangeable et veulent dire alors que, tandis que. Finally, we can use however with a comma after it. Kaepernick has been featured in several campaigns for Nike. However, he's not currently signed with the NFL. However se traduirait par cependant. On a tendance à utiliser even though, although, though et despite, in spite of pour annoncer quelque chose d'inattendu ou de surprenant. Avec whereas, while et however, on utilise plutôt cela pour indiquer le contraste entre deux faits ou deux idées. Dans tous les cas, on exprime une différence importante entre deux choses. This is the end of today's lesson. I hope you had a good time. I did. I will see you in the next lesson. In the meantime, take care. Bye.